Dragon Ball Super is finally making a comeback after what feels like forever of a hiatus fall of this year, with a retelling of the Beerus arc, along with rumors of the other subsequent arcs supposedly getting the same treatment, which will lead us up to the Galactic Patrol arc. And along with this good news, however, it did get me thinking back to probably one of the most, if not the most, hyped moment in all of modern Dragon Ball, with the introduction of Ultra Instinct. And at the time, one of the things I always thought about is how it could have been handled differently to expand the series and its characters, right? So as this video is aptly named, I want to discuss what I quote unquote think a perfect version of Ultra Instinct would look like, narratively speaking, because we already understand what mastered or perfected Ultra Instinct looks like with the white hair. Love the transformation, is dope. But then we're going to close out the video on where I want to discuss how this change could have expanded the story better, along with, again, the characters. So with all the preamble out the way, I want to say thank you guys so much for the support that you've been showing. We still got that goal of 1,300 subs. We're currently at 1,230, so please, continue liking, commenting, subscribing. Really does help the channel. Now, let's get it done. So first, I want to acknowledge the fact that Ultra Instinct is genuinely one of the coolest transformations that we've seen in Dragon Ball as a whole, or even debatably anime as a whole, in my own opinion, right? It was finally a new form that was more than just a recolor of a previous one. If we're speaking about transformations from Super's standards, I'm just going to be honest here, and then adding in the philosophy of achieving the peak of martial arts, the highest you can go, also made it unique from all the other transformations that we've had in the series up until this point, because every transformation that we've had up until this point is just more power. It's just stronger. It's just like, I get angrier and I get stronger, and then I win the fight. And the idea of detaching from your emotions, which again has played such a pivotal role in the series for different characters, was such a welcome change. Goku, to get stronger, has always, whether it's putting the training aside, just gotten angrier, and that's how he's overcome the fights. And I know there's more to it than this, but it's a pretty good summary. Beat Frieza, got angry, got Super Saiyan. Beat Cell, got angry, Gohan got Super Saiyan 2, or I guess it was Ascended Super Saiyan at the time. And I guess Majin Buu is a little bit different. I will say that Majin Buu, they didn't really employ the get angry and get stronger kind of thing there, but also applying the idea of the body moving on its own, whether it is to attack or defend, has always just been one of the dopest things to me in any form of media. I love it. With Rock Lee, we got like the drunken fist and all that kind of stuff. Like, his mind isn't active and his body is just moving. I love that in martial arts. But with all the things that I like about the transformation out of the way, let's talk about what I think the biggest problem was, which I, along with a lot of other people, have brought it up. And it's the fact that Ultra Instinct should not have been a transformation in the first place. Ultra Instinct fundamentally is a technique employed by the Angels, and that's all it should have been, a technique. Making Ultra Instinct a transformation, for myself at least, waters it down to being just another power-up in the grand scheme of things within Dragon Ball, and we've had so many transformations and power-ups in Dragon Ball, right? And I will argue the only reason Ultra Instinct is still relevant is because it's the final form that we've had up until this point. We don't know if going to that Frieza Black arc, Goku or Vegeta are gonna achieve, new forms, which by then Ultra Instinct's gonna be rendered mute and irrelevant, kind of like how Super Saiyan Blue kinda is at the moment, but it's really not. We're not going to get too deep into that, right? But when it was first introduced in the manga and the anime, we see Roshi apply these principles to his own fighting style, which causes him to be able to, even for a short amount of time, face off against Jiren. It being a form, to me at least, hurts it, because just like the other transformations, it will always be compared to the original transformation, at least within the context of a transformation scene, and like which one is more iconic or more cool, right? But I will say that later in the manga, by the Granola arc, they do switch it up a little bit, and Goku applies the principle of, the evasion and all that kind of stuff to his base form along with Super Saiyan. Again, he uses the evasiveness and the defensive capabilities that come with any versions of the form, whether it's the imperfected form or the mastered form, which I think is how it should have been applied from the get-go, because that's what Beerus and Whis use it as, right? I understand that Dragon Ball is a battle shonen, but at this point in the story, it needs to move away from just the who punches harder question, which I do feel as though they were doing when they had that glimpse of it with Roshi, because making somebody like Roshi go up against somebody like Jiren is nuts. Because I'd argue Roshi probably the weakest under maybe Yamcha. I think maybe Yamcha's stronger than Roshi. I don't know. We didn't really see Roshi train in Z at all, that kind of thing. But the biggest complaint of modern Dragon Ball is the power creep and power inconsistencies. And I know I've mentioned this in damn near every Dragon Ball video by this point that I've made, especially when we're talking about Super, but there is no reason at all that Krillin should have been able to keep up with Super Saiyan Blue Goku firing off Kamehamehas with each other. It makes no sense, right? And if you want to make old characters who were considered irrelevant in Z have a part in the story, you can't just tell me that they've been training and that they've somehow caught up. No human off raw power alone should be rivaling people who are close to the same tier as gods. But if they were to learn a technique of the gods, who's to say it wouldn't elevate their fighting abilities and their fighting capabilities, right? One series that I have seen apply the philosophy of fights being more hand-to-hand based instead of just flashy attacks is Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, which, regardless of how you feel about the series, I think it is hard to disagree that they were able to circumvent the power creep problem that was clearly occurring, because by that point the only people in the verse that were relevant to the Otsutsuki were Naruto and Sasuke, by making overly flashy jutsus and techniques like, say, you know, the Susanoo, the Susanoo, there we go. Oh my god, I butchered the shit out of that. And, you know, Kurama the Nine Tails, like big chakra mechs, irrelevant. They went back to basics with taijutsu and tactics, which retroactively makes a lot of characters relevant. So people like Shikamaru, you know, their brain is back in the play. Somebody like, say, theoretically, if they ever bring him in the series, Rock Lee, he can be very efficient and very effective against the Otsutsukis because they can't absorb taijutsu, or even Sakura could be relevant in the series, right? And Ultra Instinct being locked to Goku was also one of the most limiting things Dragon Ball could have done. I know that they're currently trying to diversify the Saiyan transformations along with Piccolo, essentially all the aliens, by giving them unique transformations each, but the technique itself by definition should be something that everyone is able to achieve. And bouncing off this, I do want to go into the next section of this video, which is how I think this change could have improved the story. So the biggest thing that I think we as fans of Dragon Ball have grown to accept with the series is that almost any character, usually a Saiyan, is able to come in, and almost exclusively always a Saiyan, and I'm looking at you, Gohan, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's always Gohan, can just come into the story and be relevant in terms of power scaling again, right? And they also try to make different prior transformations relevant even when it doesn't really make sense in terms of the fight, right? And this, I think, could be fixed on both fronts with this change. I'm not saying that every Z fighter should immediately get access to Ultra Instinct and then get boosted to the top of the verse, right? But a thing that was so enticing about OG Dragon Ball, and I'd even argue during the early parts of Z, was seeing characters we know and love grow alongside Goku. In modern Dragon Ball, the only person we saw or see grow alongside Goku was Vegeta, and then after the Tournament of Power, they started, you know, I guess they realized that they have to add more characters in there other than just Goku and Vegeta, because you can only do so much when you just have two characters that you don't really change that much in the series, leading us to getting Broly, Piccolo, and Gohan, which is okay, but they were all kind of out of nowhere, if we're being honest. I know that Broly is a mutant among Saiyans, that's why he was able to get as strong as he did, but being able to grow that fast in the time frame he did made no sense to me. And it's not even the fact that he grew that fast. If you want him to grow that fast, all right, cool, you know, have him grow fast, pause. But Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, dude, off rip, Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, really? I know that Gogeta was handling him, but the fact that they had to go there to Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, that doesn't, no, I'm not really accepting that. I'm not really rocking with that. And then Gohan went from his strongest form, which was Ultimate, and then jumping to Beast, which from what we have seen in the manga is now considered like just below Ultra Instinct, and that's with no real training. I know it's Gohan, and I know they keep saying he has the most potential of everything. I'm tired of hearing that shit. I know I made a video on this in my early things of this channel, days of this channel. I'm tired of hearing that shit now. Have this man train, have him work for his goddamn power-ups, have him work for it. And then on the Piccolo front, Shenron shared his powers with him, you know, to give him his own version of Potential Unleashed in Orange. That was okay for me, and we did get an actual explanation for it, so I'm more forgiving of that. And you know, you wish to get stronger, the dragon like wishes. I guess Shenron doesn't make wishes, he just grants. I don't know how you would consider that, but using his wishing power or magic power to make Piccolo stronger, I'm okay with that. I'm all right. Because again, Piccolo does train all the time. But while I do like this ensemble, adding in Krillin or Tien after training with Whis would do so much for the series. Humans have been long forgotten, have been left behind for so long that I would love it if one of them was able to enter the domain of the gods by achieving this technique. The groundwork was already laid out by Roshi, which he achieved without any formal training from the teacher, Whis, who is able to properly teach this technique. It would add some much needed diversity to fights, because I don't know if you remember, but Krillin and Tien aren't really brute force fighters. They aren't brute force characters in their fights. They're tacticians who try to outsmart their opponents, and applying a technique like Ultra Instinct, which isn't really just a raw power thing, would add so much to them, right? And on the transformations front, again, they've already gone and corrected this in the manga, so I won't really spend too much time on it, but allowing Ultra Instinct to be something Goku uses in his base form means he can apply it to Super Saiyans 1 through 3 along with the God forms, which would help to bring them back into fights that makes them relevant, mainly the Super Saiyan transformations. I miss the Super Saiyan transformations. Those were so cool. I still think Super Saiyan 1 is, or just Super Saiyan, is the best transformation in all of Dragon Ball to this day. I do love Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan 2 though. Super Saiyan 4 is also dope, but that's not canon, you know what I mean. But mainline series like canon transformations, just having Super Saiyan 1 come back and actually be relevant would be amazing. I would love that, right? Think how after Goku went at Super Saiyan God for the first time, and even after going back to his base form, he was still keeping up with Beerus because his body had adjusted to the power. You can have that happen with Krillin or Tien. Be like, oh yeah, you know, they achieved this technique and somehow it boosted them. They could explain that better. I'm not really a writer. Also, they probably won't because it's Dragon Ball and they usually don't. But, you know, just call a spade a spade. But Dragon Ball is genuinely one of my favorite series of all time, as I'm sure it is for a lot of you watching this video, if not literally every single person watching this video. But along the progression of the story, we have lost lots of characters who were integral in the story for a very long time. Things like this could be addressed if they found creative ways to bring these characters up to relevancy in the universe at large. As I previously stated, I'm not saying that they should be able to throw hands with somebody like Goku or Vegeta, but they should be able to participate in fights. And again, it would help to expand the story beyond just the Saiyans and make the humans relevant again, which would be so good. I would love it. But that's the video, you know, and as usual, let me know what you guys think down below. Comment and tell me if you disagree or you agree. Maybe I'm wrong and Ultra Instinct is perfect the way it is and we just need to leave the humans alone and whatever, and maybe Dragon Ball's power creep isn't really a problem. Just let me know down below. I answer literally every single comment, right? And don't forget to like and subscribe if you have made it this far in the video. And I do want to say thank you guys again. Truly, you're helping me make my dreams come true. I love you guys. Goodbye.